Hey y'all, this week at the TikTok Homeschool Conference, it's all about high school. I'm going to be talking with you about that one fear all of us homeschool moms have, and that is the transcript. So how do you make a transcript? What goes on a transcript? What's it supposed to look like? Do I even need a transcript? Okay, so first of all, let's answer that last question first. If your student is college bound, you're going to need a transcript, okay? If your student is going to be going into trade school, or they're going to be going straight into community college and then maybe transferring into a four-year university after that, you don't really need a transcript, okay? You just need a high school diploma. If your student is going straight into the workforce, you don't need a transcript, okay? So this session is really for those moms, those parents who has a teen whose post-graduation goal is to go to university right out the bat. Then you're going to need a transcript. Okay, so what should a transcript look like? All right, y'all, don't reinvent the wheel. There are so many great programs out there that you can use where you just fill in the information. I absolutely love academicrecords.com. Homeschool Legal Defense Association also has a transcript service. I love the new one called Fast Transcripts. That's a really good one. And then the School Folio app, they also create transcripts for you. Now, all of these do require a fee, but the fee is super cheap or inexpensive. So Academic Records is like $15 a year per student. I think it's well worth it than to try and create your own. If you get my book, Homeschool High School, the appendix is full of forms and samples and examples of different transcripts that you could create on your own and fill in, all right? So don't worry about making it look professional. Just use something that's already out there in order to create the transcript for your student. Now, what goes on a transcript? Think about this. A transcript is not a resume. All right, so you're not listing out all the awards they got and all the performances they were in and all that kind of stuff. Literally, what colleges want to know is what they took or what they learned, when they learned it, the grade they earned, okay? That's all they want to know. So you want to make sure that your student is learning all of the subjects that is required by your state in order to receive a high school diploma. So that's the first thing you need to do, is go and make sure that if your state requires anything, which a lot of states out there don't, if you're in one of the states that do, make sure you know what those things are and your student is doing those, okay? Now, for example, it's usually 3 or 4 years of English, 2 to 3 years of math, 2 years of science, 2 or 3 years of history, some sort of fine arts, some sort of PE, okay? Now, if you live in a state where there isn't a specific requirement in order of things to learn and do to graduate, or you live in a specific state where the parent is the one that decides what the child or the teen needs to learn in order to graduate high school, okay? Then my suggestion is you have your teen go to the different colleges on their website and see what is required of college admissions to get into their colleges of choice, and that becomes their requirements for graduation, okay? Those are the things you're gonna wanna make sure are on your student's transcript, okay? Now, let's talk about how students can earn different credits for different subjects. Now, again, my book, Homeschool High School, every single chapter is on a different subject. So I've got a whole subject on English and how to earn English credit for students who are college bound, all the way to students who are going straight into the workforce, to the students who have no idea what they want to do, right? And how you can earn, say, English credit for all the different homeschooling styles, from traditional homeschooling to Charlotte Mason to classical to unschooling to unit. So I cover all of the different styles and all of the different goals in each of those chapters. Also at my YouTube channel, Coffee with Carrie Homeschool Help, I also have a playlist where I share with you tons of ideas and curriculum recommendations in classes for each of those requirements, for English and history and math and science and all of that, okay? But in a nutshell, super easy. English credit. Your student can do it the old-fashioned way, where they do U.S. literature 1 year, where they're reading really good literature books written by U.S. authors and poets and things like that, okay? So they can read really good books by American authors and poets and get credit for it, all right? They could do a whole year of writing, so it could be composition that you put on the transcript instead of U.S. literature, and they're literally spending the entire year writing. They're writing essays, maybe they're writing their own novel. If they're in 9th grade and maybe their writing skills aren't quite where they should be, well, then they spend the whole 9th grade year, their whole freshman year, improving and working on their writing skills, right? You just put on the transcript, composition, English 9, English 10, English 11. It could be as general as that, or you could put creative writing or communications, or if maybe they created their own website and they have their own blog, you can write it as that, okay? So literally reading and or writing for an entire year, you could give them credit. According to the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, if a student spends about 120 to 180 hours learning a particular subject, learning a skill, learning a topic, you can give them high school credit for it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, for math, yes, they could do a traditional math textbook, which is what a lot of teens will do. They finish the textbook or almost finish the textbook, you can give them credit. And you just label it Algebra 1. Algebra 2, geometry, whatever it was. If they take an outside course for math of some kind, well, when they finish that class at your co-op or online, then when they're done, you just give them credit for it and you label it on the transcript, whatever that particular math class was. Maybe it was pre-calculus. Maybe they're doing dual enrollment, which I did a whole video on that, and they're taking college algebra. They finish that at the community college level, you give them credit for it on their transcript and you label it exactly the same way that the community college labels it, okay? Science, same thing. They could do it traditionally, they could take a class outside the home, they could do something online, they can do an internship, excuse me. They can do an internship. Maybe they want to be a marine biologist, so they volunteer or they have an internship at the local aquarium. You give them credit for that. Remember, 120 to 180 hours learning a subject, learning a topic, learning a skill, you can give them high school credit for it, okay? When it comes to history, the same thing. They could read their way through history, they can watch their way through history, they could use a traditional textbook, they could take a class outside the home, they could do dual enrollment, they could take a CLEP exam. If they're spending the entire year studying for a CLEP exam, which I did a whole session talk on that, and they're spending 120 to 180 hours studying and prepping and getting ready for this U.S. government CLEP exam, and then they take it, whether they pass it or not, you can give them high school credit, okay? So you can be very creative in how you give, what you give credit for, and when you put it on the transcript, you just want it to be as simple as possible. English 9, English 10, Algebra 1, Biology with Lab, U.S. government. Let's just say that they're musicians and they spend well over 120 to 180 hours practicing their instrument, composing music, performing, producing their own album, whatever it is. You know they're spending way more than 180 hours doing this. You can give them credit and put on the transcript, music fundamentals, music theory, guitar 1, guitar 2, guitar 3. You can be very creative in how you write it on the transcript. But y'all remember, don't reinvent the wheel. Go find a program out there, one of the ones that I mentioned earlier, where you just pay a small little fee. It helps you create the transcript. You'll have everything on it that you need to have on it. And make sure you go check out my book and my YouTube channel, Coffee with Carrie Homeschool Help, and check out that playlist where I talk about in more detail all of the different ways that your kids can earn high school credit and all the different subjects. You guys enjoy.